start with the interim results out of Famous Brands. Headline earnings per share close to 0.25% higher for the period. Big boost from the World Cup. And of course, as we heard from Kevin Hedderwick, the CEO just a moment ago, Tasha's continues to be a very good performer for the group.
Evening, Bronwyn. Yeah, a good set of numbers for them. I mean, really what they got is, typically this is their quiet 6 months because it falls over some holidays, but it's not Christmas, and that's really the big deal, that year-end holiday. In essence, the World Cup gave them kind of 2 Christmas halves, and that's very good in terms of what they did in the second half of last year. So really good cash flow coming through that space. And if you drill into the numbers, the only sort of blip maybe was the United Kingdom, and 2 things hit them there, and that's their Wimpies in the UK. They got hit obviously by the recession and tough times in the UK, and then the currency coming back with the rand stronger. But they improved margins, everything going in their favour, and everything working really, really well.
And then just looking at ShopRite, that group out with a trading update saying that revenue was up 9.7% across the group for the first quarter of this year, post the end of the year last year. And then looking at the local environment in South Africa, they said that we saw revenue up 8.5%, with internal food deflation coming in at 1.5%. So certainly seeing real growth at around 10%, which is very good given the fact that they've also stated that the economic environment is seeing no relief.
Absolutely, and I mean, as you said, I mean, a real growth in the order of around 10%, a good number. But I think the important point you made there was right at the end, where you said, you know, it is still tough out there, and we said from Famous Brands as well. I mean, make no mistake about it, it is tough being a consumer out there, and I think it's the guys who are doing really well in this space, and ShopRite and Famous Brands are 2 of those companies who are doing very well in the tough times, who are showing us the efficiencies of their organizations, the efficiencies and scope of their leadership, and one can only wonder how even better they're going to do when the consumer gets back and starts to improve, which is not going to happen in a hurry, but slowly they're moving in the right direction. And ShopRite and Famous Brands and others, clicks from last week, very well positioned.
Just looking at the market today, we've got Richemont at the top of the top 40, up 2 1/3%. We haven't spoken about Richemont for some time, closing today at 35 Rand 25. I think statements have been thrown around Richemont saying that you may never be able to pick this one up at a cheap share price.
I think it is one of those stocks. I mean, you know, when the global financial crisis was happening, 2008, 2009, certainly it was tough out there, being someone in the luxury retail space, selling watches for vast amount of money and the like. But there's always that element of the market who's out there, who is buying, and as soon as things start to improve, they go back. And what we're seeing, I think, is also a large look towards the east, which has really, really been helping them. And I think that's a fair comment to say, you know, Richemont's probably one of those stocks, if you're waiting to buy it when it's cheap, you're probably going to wait forever and a day.
Just looking at Anglo American, those who didn't buy Anglo American below 300 Rand may now be kicking themselves. We're at 323 Rand 90 today at the close, up 2% again. And of course, the other diversified miner, BHP Billiton, rallying 2% as well. Have we lost our chance to buy in at lower levels for these stocks, in your opinion?
In the short term, yes. I mean, you know, Billiton around the 200, which puts it up about 20%. Anglo around the 300, which means it's 10% up from that. I think we're going to rally harder. Certainly what it looked like today was a big swing into resources, and resources have been the lagger since August, when we saw industrial start to move. Banks haven't done much either, but resources really were there. I suppose the question is then, forget the short term, let's go out 6-12 months. Are we going to get that pullback? Are we going to see 200 on Billiton and 300 in Anglo? And frankly, I think the jury might be out on that. We've taken a break. We could go another 10 or so % higher, which means we would need a fairly chunky pullback to get back to those very, very attractive levels. And that then talks to the point, investing is often about really buying when it takes that courage, not when it's easy, because when it's easy, they're expensive. And then we're scared off at the same time.
Let's talk about this copper price, because obviously that is causing the rally that we're seeing in these diversified miners as well, hitting $8,500 a ton today. That is a 27-month high on copper. We do see that London Metal Exchange stocks of copper coming down, they are lower, and we also see continued strong demand out of China for the copper story. Is there any chance that this is a bubble forming in copper, or those fundamentals that I've just thrown forward to, are they enough to keep the copper price buoyant at these levels?
At these levels, I think at north of 8,000, I think copper's really at the top end. I don't know how much further it can move, but what we saw happen during 2008, 2009 was a lot of the smaller marginal producers who effectively went out of business, couldn't survive the situation, had too much debt, had a whole host of problems which really took supply out of the markets. The question is, are they going to come back? Short answer, yes they are, but when? And it's not going to be in the short term. So that copper price has certainly got a decent underpinning, and that underpinning is probably somewhere around the 8,000 level. It's got that decent underpinning for at least the next 6 to 12 months, and then what it needs when the extra supply comes in, can we see extra demand coming through, not from the east? Can we start seeing some demand from Western Europe and North America? And I think that's when things are going to start getting interesting, because I'm not sure that they can pick up that demand, and I suppose it depends how much supply. Short answer, I think copper's fine for now. I don't see much downside.
Simon, another strong mover today was Palladium, that went all the way to $617.50 an ounce. And we had UBS Warburg recently saying that this commodity, Palladium, is one of their best picks going forward. Do you think that we can continue to push higher on the Palladium price?
Palladium's certainly coming in for a lot of demand, and a bunch of people. I was on your show a couple of weeks ago with Justin Frontman from Macquarie. He's a PGM expert. He was also saying he likes Palladium, and certainly the shift in terms of investors has been platinum's nice, Palladium's even better. The price trading at above 600, it's trading at multi-decade highs, and really demand coming through for it, which is what's pushing it. And the general feeling out there right now is that of the metals out there, precious metals out there, pretty much everyone's saying Palladium's the one to be in.